and that kind of thing. So
Sure.
I really think it's all the same kind of thing, except different terminology over the course of our history as humans on this earth.
Right.
Because if you really look at the similarities of fallen angels, you know, even in some of the books like Enoch that are, you know, are not a part of the Bible, that even in those books it specifically states that these fallen angels were shapeshifters and that they smelled like sulfur.
Really?
And most all of the characteristics that you see in the alien abduction and in the UFO phenomena, most of the time there is the smell of sulfur.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
that is like a commonality that runs through the majority of people who really have these experiences. And shape-shifting, you know, to make someone look or make an image appear before you as it's a friendly alien or a friendly being that's trying to tell you something, this crossing over and that kind of thing, it's not that you cannot do those things, because the Bible specifically says that there were oracles and that these oracles would actually go to these points on the earth, and I describe that in my research as being like crossroads or nodes of the magnetic structures that circle our earth.
Sure.
And that in those areas are typically underground water sites, and that if you put yourself into a state of vibration, that you do have within your brain a little gland that's called a pineal gland. Now,
Sure.
a lot of people have, you know, speculated that is the seat of the soul, that there's a lot of things, but, you know, you've got your Eastern kind of religions that promote the yoga, the kundalini, those kind of things, that raise the serpent up and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it's a vibratory rate, a frequency upon the body. And so if you put yourself in that position, you allow yourself to be opened up, and I believe that there are certain areas of the earth that will make that possible. The problem is that in the research that I've done is that this light being, this angel that comes to you, you have to remember that, you know, the Bible specifically says that is an angel of light. And we know that Satan has the power of the air and that kind of things, and most of the information that even in the alien abduction, when they experience these things, if they're using, you know, I go into my work about DMT, which is a substance that can be taken, or either atomic gold, this
monatomic
kind of
gold, yeah.
Yes, that it can actually cause the pineal gland to become very responsive to, and doctors try to say maybe a hallucination. The problem that I have with it being a hallucination is the fact that most times the things that people experience in these states are very identical. And it would be like you and I, Henrik, having the same dream every night. I mean, how close a chance would that be unless we knew each other real well and maybe had experienced some of the same things?
Sure.
But the type of experiences that most of these people have are very true to the same, I guess, theme surrounding them. And so it does concern me that we see that when in the Bible, if people went to do these kinds of things and try to talk to the other side, for, let's say, the Bible tells us that there's a great gulf and we cannot make contact with people who we believe are past, you know, friends, family, or whatever.
Okay.
The problem is that these spirits in that dimension can manifest themselves to look like, let's say, your mother or your father or whatever. And the theme that is most pronounced in these things are very much grounded in theosophy, which is the worship of nature. And in theosophy, we look at all these little things that go on that have been just put all over these monolithic buildings around the world that have sat on these, what I call oracle sites, in strategic positions, in pyramids, even built on the Templars, you know, Gothic cathedrals.
So you're saying that there are certain points here that are kind of being used by the powers that be, so to speak, in order to help to deceive people that are within these areas for religious purposes or whatever.
Yes, I really do believe that it's a deception that's going on, and it's like you and I. If we knew that we could go down to this person and say, you know, my mom and dad have passed, I really want to hear from them. It would be a great thing. I would love to be able to do that. I mean, I would just love that opportunity. But we know that when that happened in the Bible with Saul, you know, he was very favored in God's eyes, and when he sought to the oracle to talk with Samuel, who was deceased, then of course he lost his kingdom. God told him, don't mess with these spirits, because what you're doing is you're messing with a spirit. You're not dealing with a person, because there's such a great gulf between when we leave our bodies in another dimension. And so it really does concern me that sometimes when I hear people say, well, I was able to talk with my mother, or I was able to talk, if what you were able to get from them, if it was, you know, to save the earth and you know, do these things that are going to help mankind by turning everything green, it's not that we shouldn't look after the earth. I'm totally for looking after the earth.
Sure.
But I'm trying to say that the central theme is this. Satan knows that once the gig is up, it's over. His only way of staying in power and using us as human beings to his pleasure is to keep Earth going.
Okay.
The moment that the Creator decides, I've had enough, you know, I'm going to send Jesus back, second coming, then according to the Bible, that, you know, Satan's kind of like, he's had his day.
So okay,
to keep everything in perspective, it's important for us to be able to want to live forever in the flesh. And this goes back to what I was telling you about Gilgamesh. He was searching for life.
Are you also saying here that we are in a period now when the, well, I would refer to it then as the experiment planet Earth are going to end or wrap up in some way, but and what we're seeing is a natural decline, or I guess what you would say the will of God, are ending the planet Earth as we know it, and Lucifer or Satan then is trying to maintain the planet in order so he can sustain himself and the other ones who are with him. Is that what you're saying here?
Yes, because if you do the research, especially on the giants, when they died, they were a hybrid, and their bodies were not able, there's the spirit side of them, anything that's made with flesh, between a person, and if it was person and a fallen angel, that flesh has got that spirit in it. But because it was fallen, it can never go to heaven. It's a fallen spirit. So it's bound to the earth. It has to roam the earth. It's been here since those things started happening. That was what Jesus cast out when he was here, and that's what talked to Jesus, and that's what ran into the pigs, and the pigs went running in the water and drowned themselves.
Sure, I've heard.
So
yeah.
those kinds of those demons are terrestrial spirits. They are born on this earth. They are captivated here on this earth. So at the moment that any of that changes, they have nowhere else to, you know, go or be a part of or whatever. So when I was saying back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh was actually searching from what I believe was the true nature or the divine spark that would allow flesh to live forever.
Okay.
And that is where biotechnology, and I go into that in my research, all this I'm talking about is in my research, but
sure.
It's being able to take the DNA structure and being able to find the defects in the DNA, such that we can either elongate a cell's telomeres, which is, you know, it can only divide and slough itself so many times as human beings, and then it completely dies. That's why we eventually die. If we can find a way to arrest that, or to plug on the DNA strand those areas that are deficient by finding the divine spark, then we can make flesh live forever.
Sure.
And this particular theme has run really from the very beginning of time. when Cain killed Abel, if you'll notice in the Bible, it says that God says that Abel's blood cried out to him. So the blood apparently has a way of communication much different than what we've ever probably imagined. And I believe that right now the biochemists are looking at how to take and whatever our life force is, be able to make it such that flesh can live forever. If you look back at some of the secret societies, especially the Rosicrucians, the intent was for their Christian, the guy that headed that up was, of course, German, and he is said to his flesh to still be alive, kept secret, but that he's sealed in such a way that the flesh actually is able to maintain itself. And this is no different than what I believe, and I do mention this in my book about cancer, that the first tumor that was ever taken out of a woman is still alive today, and it's fed by these proteins in a petri dish. If you get the right amount of hormones, proteins, the things to feed tissue, you can keep tissue alive indefinitely, stay alive. The problem is how do we keep human beings alive? And having looked at some of the history of Hitler, I find his underground scientific work, if you can get your hands on a little bit of that, involved a lot of the genetics and testing to try to what he was wanting to make was the perfect Aryan race.
Sure.
But his intent was to live forever. It's still the central theme. And so through the secret societies that have manifested themselves all the way through today with what we call the Illuminati, and what I would say the big boys that rule internationally, they're not concerned about countries. They're looking at an international one world order, and their intent is to live in the flesh, not pass on to the next generation.
Sure.
It's kind of like they want to stay here in the here and now. And so the intent for those people have always been, how do I keep flesh alive? And the Bible, interesting enough, does tell us in Revelation that there will be a day when men will want to die, and death, they cannot find it.
You know, to kind of pick up a little bit here on what you're talking about, I don't know if you are familiar with the longevity research that a guy named Aubrey de Grey is performing at a foundation that actually is called the Methuselah Foundation. And, you know, again, going back to the Bible, that's the oldest, as far as they know, that they've counted character in the Bible.
That's right.
Up to around 1,000 years, I think he lived. And we've been doing a short film about actually these kind of areas, how actually potentially secret societies or the elite are actually involved in this kind of research to extend their lives and longevity and so forth. But what we noticed when we did this short film was that there is a lot of biblical terminology and a lot of biblical even symbolism used by these big basically companies, biogenetic companies or what have you. And I'm kind of wondering why they would use this kind of symbolism. Any ideas or theories about things like that?
Yes, it's interesting enough that there was a lot of terminology, as above, so below. That has been a little thing, a theme that's run through history, and it is and I believe the satanic lineage is to create heaven on earth. It's to also, like actually what Satan told Adam and Eve, you eat of the tree and you can be like gods, and that you will not die. And I think he knew that if he could ever give us the technology, that mankind would actually want to live in the flesh and never want to die. And so I do believe that he is trying to make heaven on earth. And so his intent is to use biblical terminology, and it goes through the Masonic and Freemasonry and Illuminati, all those Rosharian